Hey, it's Dominique.
And Keely.
And you're listening to Booktrospective. And this week, we are doing Fourth Week.
Woohoo!
By Rebecca Yarros. And I'm so excited.
I'm honestly so excited too.
I am. This is a reread, or was a reread for me, and a first time for Keely.
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited too, just because it's popular now. But the second book is coming out, and
gosh,
it's such a good book, and there's so many theories, and it's just it's exciting. We don't have much catching up to do, so now I will say this book is extremely long, and whenever I start taking notes, they start out really in depth, and then they get less. I will try to condense them. I have no idea, how long it'll be. We'll work on this. We'll just work through, and we'll just do that. I have notes I can do different places, and there's, some world building, so, I don't know. There's that.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we're just gonna go with it. First, we'll do our blurb from Keely.
Yes. And this is Keely. 20-year-old Violet Sorrengail was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant. Living a quiet life among books and history, now the commanding general, also known as her toughest Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of Navarre dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away, because dragons don't bond to fragile humans. They incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than candidates, most will kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter, like Xaden Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders' Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet, with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly. The kingdom's protective wards are failing, and death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers. Everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda. Because once you enter, there are only two ways out. Graduate or die.
Woo! Okay, so, a spoiler-free summary. This book follows a bunch, there's so many characters in this book. So we're introduced to a new world, which is Navarre, and we are following a bunch of students, essentially. They're college students, because they're really 20 to 23, and the college is called Basgiath. So there's a bunch of students. Our main character's name is Violet. She is the youngest daughter of one of the highest ranking military people, whatever, of the country, essentially. We're basically following her journey. She's in the hardest division, essentially. They have 4 choices when you join, or when you grow up in this country. You can be a scribe, which is basically a historian. You can be a healer. That's self-explanatory. You can be infantry, which
They don't go into much detail.
it's like being in the army. It's like the lesser army, is what I'm assuming. In the, why can't I think of what they're in? The
Riders.
Yeah, you can be a rider. And so she doesn't have a choice in that matter. Her mom is a rider, and she's going to, her children are going to do that. And so it is brutal to be in that quadrant. And so that's where she's gone. And so we follow her. She meets lots of people. She loses lots of people. And she is introduced to people that, she's grown up being told that these are her enemies. And she is put in situations where she is forced to work with her enemies. Can she trust these enemies? Can she trust the people that she has grown up with her entire life? And so we see her being really, pushed to her physical limits and her mental limits, all while also trying to manifest a power, because this is a fantasy world. We have dragons, and the goal is to get a dragon that will allow you to basically unleash your inner power. And so she is trying to do all of that while navigate physical and social issues
And stay alive.
and stay alive. And so that is kind of the overall gist of this 500-page book. And I highly recommend that you read it. So if you haven't read it,
You might want to, because there's spoilers ahead.
there are spoilers ahead. So if you care about spoilers, one, I am so sorry if you get on TikTok because you have been spoiled, I'm sure. But if you care about spoilers, and this is going to be your notice to pause and resume at a later time. If you do not care about spoilers, or you already read it, which I hope you have, then let's
Get to it.
Let's jump into this. I'm so excited. So one of the things I really like about this book is that at the beginning of, and I do audiobooks because I like to hear it, but at the beginning of each chapter, we get a quote. We have several different books. We have a book of Brennan, which is Violet's older brother, who had kind of like written a book of his experience when he went through, and that's kind of guided Violet and her sister Mira, who's the middle child. And then they have a codex, which is kind of like the rule book for the Writer's Quadrant. And then there's like some other books that they mention in there, but we kind of get a quote. And so our very first one is, "A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without his dragon is dead." Mm-hmm. That is true. So that really sets the tone for this book. So just to start with a little bit of world building again, this Gaiath again is a war college. It's where most of the story takes place. Again, we are in the country of Navarre. These they speak the Navarrian language. Actually, this entire book is being narrated by Jacinia, who we meet throughout the story. She's a scribe. She's a first year, I believe she's a first year, like Violet. They were friends before. She's actually deaf. She signs, and Violet signs to her.
Love the representation.
Yes, it's very good. So we actually open up on what's called Conscription Day, which is the day that for most people, most kids, they get to choose where they go. They all kind of enter this middle section, and then they choose which quadrant they'll walk to. So again, that's the Rider Quadrant, the Infantry, the Healers, or the Scribes. Our main character again is Violet, and she is headed to her mom's office, which Violet's last name is Sorengale, and her mom is General Sorengale. What is her mom's first name?
Lilith.
Oh, that was a warning sign. So we are headed to General Sorengale's office. I already said that it was her mom, but we don't actually know just yet that it's her mom, but she's telling us she's headed to the general's office. She has like a pack on her bag. It's like 30 pounds. She's barely able to carry it, even though she tells us like she's been training for 6 months and she still can barely carry this pack. She tells us that like other people kind of grow up knowing where they're headed, and so they kind of train their whole lives. But she's only had 6 months, because what we'll find out is that Violet was always planning to be a scribe. Her dad was a scribe. And I'm sorry if I jump around a little bit, but her dad died. I can't remember how long ago, but it's been within the last few years or year. But her dad died, and he was a scribe. And so if her dad was around, she probably would have maybe had some more freedom. But since her dad died, her mom was like, no, you're going to be a writer. And so she also gives us a little more backstory. There's also a kingdom called Port-Emil. There's these things called griffins there, and they're griffin riders, and they are, at war with the Navarrians. And so that's essentially what the purpose of this war college is to build up their defenses, to teach people the riders to defend. I guess that's what the infantry does. Again, we don't ever really find out what the infantry does besides they camp sometimes in the snow. That's what the purpose of all of this is for. Violet goes into her mom's office, and she finds her sister Mira in there. They're yelling, and Mira's like, Violet cannot go. She is going to die. We learn that Violet was actually born with an illness, which it's not a fun fact, but fun fact, Rebecca or her child has an illness. I can't think of what the name of it is. That is what Violet is supposed to have.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so Violet has a condition where her bones break really easily. Her muscles are really weak. She's subluxate. All kind of things happen to her. She's very fragile. And I can't remember if maybe Rebecca and her child has it, but there's something like that. There's a reason that it's represented this way. And Violet's basically saying again she was never supposed to go, and so that's why she's also only had 6 months to train, because she was never supposed to go there. Violet actually hasn't seen Mira in a while because she's a dragon rider, and they're often like off actually doing their job. They're defending, and Violet really spent most of her life with the scribes, planning to be a scribe with her dad down in like the what do they call it, the archives. Mm-hmm. Mira's 26, and she's actually very similar to the mom. She has like shortcut hair. Meanwhile, Violet is very petite. She has like really long hair, which Mira would like her to cut because she said it's dangerous. But not only does she have long hair, but Violet is also like lacking in coloration. Like she's pale, and her hair like fades to white as it gets longer. So she's brunette, but I mean, if you want to know, you can like go on TikTok and you'll see it. Like you'll see a fan art, but it's brown and then it starts to fade out to silver to white. And her mom says that she basically had like a fever when she was sick, and it stole all her strength and her coloring. And she blames like the dad. She's like, I told your dad not to keep you in the library, and you should have been training. Blah 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 blah. The mom's not her favorite. The dad died a year ago. I did write it down. So Violet's 20, and she's basically like refusing to let any. We also learned that, so we know Mira's a writer. Violet has had an older brother named Brennan. He was a writer, but we do soon find out that Brennan actually is no longer with us. So on conscription day again, they are going to choose which quadrant they want to join, but that does not officially make them a part of that quadrant. They are essentially going to go through training for this next year-ish time to try to make it. And everyone's different. We don't really know what the trials look like for the other quadrants, but there's a lot that goes into being a writer, and it's either like you die or you make it, and there's no in between. Mm-hmm. Mira keeps going on about how dangerous it is, how she breaks her bones. She's not going to be able to mount the dragons. She's asking her mom, like, do you want to bury another child? So that's when we learn about Brennan, and he died 5 years ago, actually in battle. And they say that Brennan was the mom's favorite child. So the mom's sick of it. She kicks Mira out. She tells Violet, look, you're going to be fine. Get over it. And she tells her, like, I'm basically like, she's like the vice president essentially. And she's like, so I basically won't be able to talk to you for the next 3 years. So there's that. Like she's cold. Yeah. She's so cold. So Mira and Violet end up in Violet's room. Like by the time Violet gets to her room, her mom has her stuff packed. Mm-hmm. It is boxed.
She's like, go.
It's boxed and ready to go. Like I'm glad I didn't have anything in here I wanted to hide from you. Like it is packed up. So Mira is like coaching her like within like an hour. Like she basically has Violet change her. She gives her better boots that have better grip. She braids Violet's hair because she's like, she wants her to cut it because someone could grab it like in a fight. She's like, no, I don't want to cut it. I like the white stripe basically. So she braids it up, and she gives Violet this vest that Mira's been like saving the scales from her dragon, and she basically has a friend whose power, which they call the power signets. Their power is they can like make things big or little, which she enjoys. But anywho, she's been shrinking down the dragon scales to make a vest that she wants Violet to wear at all times so that no one tries. Well, they can still try and kill her, but it'll protect her. So she gives her that, and she is trying to just give her a whole bunch of like knowledge. And we essentially learn like the very first thing that Violet has to do when she goes today is that she has to cross this thing called a parapet. Which I want you guys to imagine, like, okay, you're, like, on the roof, and essentially it's kind of like if you're walking on, like, the edge balcony part of a roof. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like that across, like, I don't know, a mile, and there's just, like, nothing under you. Almost like if you're walking, like, on a tightrope. Yeah. Yeah.
Or like a
tiny bridge.
Wall or something like that. Like a wall.
Like you're walking on the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
It's essentially like that, but you can't step down off of that little top edge. Like it's like it's wide enough for 1 foot at a time.
Yeah, the ledge. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like literally like that's the very first step. Like day 1, not day 0. You're like you're doing it. So they're talking about like the weather. It already looks like it's going to storm. And they're talking about this pack, and Mira's like, why do you have all this stuff in here? Like Violet's like, I want to take my book. She's like, ma'am, you have to cross this thing.
You can barely carry what's in there right now.
Yeah, so she's like taking it, and Violet is like, oh, there's this one book that their dad gave them. It has all this folklore, and she's telling us about these things called wyvern, and Mira's like, look, I'll take it, so Mom doesn't take it, but like, girl, no. No, you gotta go. So Mira also was just telling her, like, you have to be smarter, be observant, know your rule book. We find out, like, writers can kill each other. Just because they're all, like, playing for the same team doesn't mean anything. Like, they can kill each other at any time except for when they're asleep, essentially. Like, it's not fair to, like, go in someone's room when they're asleep and kill them. So she's like, but sleep in your vest, because people don't follow the rules. And they're, essentially she's like, the less writers that there are, the more chance people have to get a dragon, because that's what everyone wants. So... And also, again, Violet's mom is like the vice president. Most people don't like that person. So, and there's more reason not to like her mom in just a minute. So, she's like, you got to watch out. And then Mira tells her to find Dane Aton. We'll get into Dane. But Dane has been their childhood friend, and he is now a second year. And so she's like, get in there, find him. He'll help you. And she's like, stay away from, like, the other second years. They gossip. Don't sleep with anybody. Just do what you have to do.
And stay away from...
Oh, and she's like, and no matter what you do, stay away from Xaden Ryerson. Which, okay, I'll wait to give this comment in just 1 second. I'm going to give this comment in just 1 second. But stay away from Xaden Ryerson. Basically, Violet gets in line. Mira's like, hey, I gotta go. Mira has to go back to her job. They're not, one, Mira has to go back to where she was, but two, we find out that for their first year, like, they do that whole, oh, we're going to detach you from your family thing, so it makes you bond closer, like, that whole mental whatever. So she's not allowed to talk to her family for, like, a whole year. No one is. So, Mira has to go. And we also learn about these people called separatists. So we learned that there was a rebellion about 5 years ago, and all of the rebellion, the traitors, the adults, they were killed, but all of their kids were marked by a dragon, and they have these relic marks on them. And Xaden is one of those, but there's a lot of those. They're basically traitor kids. Mm-hmm. And Xaden's dad was actually the great betrayer. He was like the leader of all of the rebellion people, and his Violet's mom is the one who executed him. So obviously, he's going to have this big reason to be after her. Actually, all of the kids are going to have a reason to be after Violet, because her mom kind of led the thing, to kill all of their parents. So Violet gets in line, she goes to get checked in, and the guy that checks her in is surprised, because I want to say he's the scribe that, like, she's been working with, and no one knew that her mom had made her switch to the Writer's Quadrant, so they're, like, kind of sad. But we get introduced pretty quickly to two people. We get introduced to Rhiannon and Dylan, and Rhiannon and Violet are going to become good friends. Dylan is very excited to be there. He wants to get married as soon as he graduates. Violet checks out Rhiannon's boots, and she's like, you're probably not going to make it, because it's getting ready to storm and it's going to rain, and they have to, like, climb up a mountain just to get to the parapet. Like, it's a whole bunch of foolishness. So she swaps, like, one boot for Rhiannon, so they, like, have, like, one small shoe on. Like, it's a whole mess. But shout out to Violet, because I'm just focused on me getting across here. But Violet is a good friend to have. Mm-hmm. So Violet gets up there, and who do we see but Xaden? And he's gorgeous, of course. And Xaden, of course, like, he has muscles, and, like, he has marble features, she says. He has onyx hair. And we will learn, I'm just going to say it now because I don't know when they say it, that Xaden, his power is shadows, and I love a shadow daddy. I love Azrael. I love Dorian. If you are, like, an Akatar, throwing a glass, whatever. So, like, Xaden is, like, right up there. We love Xaden. She loves Xaden, too. She's like, he's gorgeous, and I hate him. So, what can she do? And he is, like, of course, they have their meet cute. Oh, you're Violet Sorrengail. Like, whatever. Okay, whatever. So, they start crossing, and almost immediately Dylan dies. He falls off. He slips in the rain, which we knew because he's like, I'm going to get married. So, yeah, that was like, okay.
I was like, oh, dang.
Don't have expectations here. As soon as people start saying they're going to do stuff, like, don't make plans.
Right.
But as they're crossing, then we get introduced to the supervillain behind us, which is Jack.
My gosh.
Oh my gosh. What I want to know is, why?
He is just
how are you
psychotic.
Running? Yeah. This guy is running across the parapet to try to knock Violet off. How? How are you doing that? He doesn't give me, like, skinny vibe. Like, he's got to be a big guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. He just sees her. He's like, I'm going to kill you.
Just like, he out of the blue. Like,
picks up the people. Because he was not directly behind her. He picks up the people between them and starts throwing people off of the parapet. He's like, crazy.
Why?
He's crazy. So Violet is trying to get across. She's focused. And what she does whenever she's trying to focus is she repeats facts in her head, which we know is like just a tool for Rebecca Yarros to like give us more facts. It's like a cool way to do that. But she's doing like more world building. She's just like repeating facts in her head. She gets across because Jack is chasing her, and literally she jumps down. He's on the edge, and she pulls out a knife, like, and holds it up to like his balls. And she's
one of my favorite moments.
Yes, she's like, basically like back down, and like the writers that are over there, they're like so unimpressed, but they are basically like, they're like, well, she's on the ground now, so like she's actually in the quadrant, but you're still on the parapet, so like you don't even qualify yet, so she can cut you and it'll be like legal. So he basically was like, he's like, whatever, but like don't sleep, because he's out to get you for the rest of your life now. He's like, I'm gonna kill you, blah 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 blah. They get off. She meets up with Rhiannon again. They trade their boots back. They both made it. And then we meet Dane, and Violet tells us, like, they were friends. They've been friends forever because his dad and Violet's mom always are, like, stationed together. Mm-hmm. They never go anywhere without each other, so they pretty much always, like, moved around together. And she's had a childhood crush on him. And he is actually the squad leader. So we learn, like, the way that the Rider Quadrant is broken down is they're broken down into wings. So there's 4 wings. And then there are squads. I wrote this down somewhere. There's 3. Okay. There's 4 wings, and then there's 3 sections in each wing, and there's 3 squads in each section. That's a little confusing. And Dane is the squad leader of the 2nd squad in 4th wing. Follow me. Xaden is the wing leader, so he's above Dane. He's also a 3rd year. Dane's a 2nd year. Violet's a 1st year. Xaden is the wing leader of 4th wing, so he's like over everyone in 4th wing. But Dane's like, I'm gonna have you he's like telling Rhiannon, he's like, go tell them to put you guys in my squad. But then he grabs Violet. He's like, okay, we're gonna get you out of there. And she's like, what? Like, no, I can't. She's
like, just cross this freaking parapet.
And like, her mom's the boss. Like, what? She's like, if I leave, my mom will just go over there and bring me back. Like, no. And so, he's crazy. We also see, like, they can do magic. So we learned that when they get dragons, like, they get what is called their signet, which is special to each rider. But then, like, all of them get, like, little powers. Like, they can unlock their doors with magic. They can, like, write with their pens without ink quills or whatever.
The lesser magic.
Yeah, they call them lesser. They can magnify their voices. Just, like, cool stuff. So that's kind of cool. So Violet, also, like, she fell in the parapet, so her knee gets, like, messed up. Mm-hmm. So Dane knows all about her body and being messed up, and she doesn't want everyone obviously to know she has this weakness. So he takes her to his room. She gets bandaged up, and she's already upset because she's like, he already doesn't think that she can make it. He has a savior complex. Whatever. And we learned that there was 301 first years that made it across the parapet. 67 did not. So we've already lost 67 people that have fallen to their death. And Violet tells us that basically every morning they're gonna read this thing called the death roll, and they'll just read it, and then they basically tell the parents, like, you can come and get your kid's body and bury it, or we'll just bury them, like, out here with this rock. And then they burn everybody's stuff. It is so sad.
Yeah.
Like, there's no big to do, and they're like, that's just the last time they'll talk about them. They just, like, move on. Mm-hmm. They don't care. And, like, they go and like they all meet once everyone gets across. There's a professor or General Milgram. He's one of their teachers. He starts talking to them, and that's when we kind of like see Xaden again. Everyone's lined up, and all the dragons start to come in, and they get scared, which is like, where did you think you were going?
Right.
I was like, what are you scared for? Like, you guys know that there's dragons. And that's when we kind of get a flashback to that intro quote at the beginning of the chapter. And Violet tells us, like, once someone is bonded to their dragon, if they make it through, they physically cannot live without their dragon. Dragons can live to be very old, 500 years, whatever. So a dragon can live if their rider dies. Some could die. It could kill them. It's like an emotional attachment. But if a dragon dies, the rider will die. Mm-hmm. So it's a very serious bond. And so the dragons are flying in, and they actually end up killing like one of the new cadets because they got so scared they try to like run off. Like, people are peeing their pants. It's crazy.
Don't know what they expected, but
right. So, we find out it's very divergent, by the way. If you read this, like, yes. It's very divergent. They're, like, in one big room with all their cots. It's giving Divergent.
I feel like it's, like, Divergent meets, like, How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes. Yeah, which I love Divergent, so, I love it, but it's giving Divergent. It really is. So we learn, like, they're going to have to, like, spar or fight on the mat, like, every week. They have all these, like, obstacles and trainings that they're going to have to do. They're going to end up having to do, like, this dragon presentation down the line. And then they lead up to this thing called threshing, which is basically where they try to find their dragon. Which everyone's not guaranteed, again, to find a dragon. Like, either they might all get selected or, like, none of the dragons might not like them.
Right.
And so what happens is if you don't get chosen, like, you just have to keep repeating your first year until you die, or a dragon chooses you. Which, oh my... And there are people that we meet that are repeating, and mm-hmm. That's miserable. So after, like, all this is said and done, we find out that Xaden goes and makes Dane and his whole squad switch to fourth wing. So originally they were in, like, second wing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they make them switch to fourth wing, and Dane's pissed because he hates Xaden because he has Napoleon complex or something. I don't know. He has little man syndrome. So we also meet Xaden's dragon, which is Sigale. She's a blue daggertail. She's, like, huge, big, powerful, all the things. Of course, it's Xaden. Whatever. Let's see. And we learn about some of the signets that the riders can have. They can have water wielding, fire wielding. And we also learn that Vi's mom can wield storm power. And I want to pause here to ask what you think. Because it stormed when Vi was on the parapet.
Just before it was her turn to go. Yeah.
Like, are you trying to kill her?
Right. No, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, do you or do you not want your daughter to make it through?
Right. So, her mom is a storm wielder. I just want you guys to remember that. Because I'm like, sure, maybe, I guess it can storm without her, like, calling it.
Right.
But that's real coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that Dane can read memories. But, so Dane's power is so vague because...
Yes.
So Dane tells Violet that he has to touch your temples to read your recent memories. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what recent means. Like, does that mean the last 24 hours? Does that mean the last 5 hours? Like,
the last 5 days?
Yeah, we don't know what that means. And we will run into something later. And I have to jump around a little bit. Because it just makes me think of it. But we do learn of people who they call intrinsics, and they can read minds. But Dane is different than that. So I'll come back to that later in the book. Mm-hmm. So they also, in addition to, like, fighting each other, they have to take actual classes. So they take things like history and battle brief. Later, when they start to, like, channel with their dragons, they'll, like, wield their powers. They do that. And so we start to, we learn that, like, the dragons give magic to also protect the borders of Navarre. And that prevents people outside, like the Griffin Riders, to come in. Like, their magic won't work inside of the borders because of the dragons. And Griffins are essentially half lion, half eagle beast. And those, again, are from that country, Poramiel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also can give their riders powers, but it's different. And they can't end the conscription, essentially, because, like, they're still at war, even though it's not, like, what it was. But they're still at war. So that's the whole reason. Like, basically, if the war could end, they wouldn't do this conscription thing. Or at least that's what they tell us. And we meet a couple of other people. So we meet Pryor. He's another first year. And we meet Luca and Orally. So those are just some names we might see here again. And we learned that there was also a recent griffin attack, which Violet finds weird because the attack was like at a high altitude and griffins can't fly. Like the dragons can fly, griffins really don't. Like they should be lower level. They don't have good wings for that. So it's just strange. And like they have wards that protect against it. So it's just strange, which Violet obviously knows a lot because her mom, again, is like the vice president and her dad was a scribe.
Yeah, and she worked
in the archives. She remembers everything and she's worked in all of the everything but what's classified. Violet knows,
because her life was leading up to be a scribe.
So she just finds that she finds it very, very, very weird. But they go to sparring because they have to do an assessment, and of course, Jack kills his partner. Thankfully, it wasn't Violet.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, his neck." He literally snaps his neck. He said, "I'm sorry, his neck was weak."
I was like, "Are you?"
I'm like, "What? Why did you guys let him live? I don't understand." And she gets paired with a girl named Imogen, who is a second year. She is also one of the rebellion kids, and she doesn't like her because she's like, your mom killed whoever. But she does overpower her, and she does pull her arm out of the socket.
And snap.
Yes. Yeah. Violet always tells us, like, she can hear whatever, like, yeah, it's gross. So, of course, here comes Dane. He takes her to the Menders, and, like, they're used to seeing Violet, like, but they didn't know that she was going there either, because they're like, "Oh, what happened?" And then they're like, "Oh, you're a writer?" And so we meet I said Menders. So we actually are in the healer quadrant, but they have people called Menders, and they're different than the healers. So the healers don't have any magic. So, yeah, so the healers just do, like, basic, like, they could probably do, like, herbal stuff. Nothing magical. But then they have menders who, they actually, technically they're writers, who have a signet to mend. And we find out that Brennan, Violet's brother that died, he was a mender. And they can mend anything, like, whether it's bones or buildings or whatever.
And it's still not going to be, like, a instantaneous, like, snap of your fingers and it's...
fix. Like, and it hurts, too.
Right. But, and they're very few and far between, the menders are.
Yeah, it's a very rare power. It's Winifred is the healer and Nolan is the mender. And it sounds like they're married.
Yes.
Of course, Dane is delusional. He's like, don't mend her, because then when she stays broken, then she'll have to go to the scribes. I hate him so much. And they give her some, like, drug, and she's like, "Mend me." Mend me. So she's like, "I'm not going to the scribe." She's like, "Mend me." She's like, "I'm not coming back here," because she's like, "I can't keep coming over here and getting fixed. Like, I have to deal with this." But she's like, "No, I want to be fixed. I'm going to do this." And so she gets healed up or whatever. She goes back. She finds out Mira actually did hang around a little bit and, like, realized she didn't die the first night. And she leaves her the Book of Brennan.
Love it.
Yes, so this is where we actually get the Book of Brennan, which is what he gave to Mira when she... so all, like, the notes and stuff in there say, like, Mira, because he wrote this for her experience in the quadrant. And so now she's giving it to Violet. And she's put, like, her own little notes in there. Essentially, like, she shouldn't have it because I guess, like, when someone dies, they're supposed to burn all their belongings.
Absolutely everything.
Which is shady to me.
Yeah.
It seems very shady. In there, Violet finds a note that basically tells her she can sneak out to a certain place and she can find out who she will be sparring with each week so that she'll know ahead of time. So then at the beginning of the next chapter, we get another little note, and it says no more than 3 cadets with the traitor relic can meet at a time. And that's going to be important here in just a second, because Vi is out past curfew picking berries because she's going to poison all her sparring. Because she's like, "Yeah, I can't fight them.
Work smarter, not harder.
So I got to poison them." And she doesn't want to kill them, but she just wants to injure them. So she's like picking all these berries, climbing trees. So she climbs up in a tree, and then who's at the bottom but Zayden? So there's Zayden, and then essentially, like, every kid with a relic ends up showing up. And she's like, they're not, obviously she knows the codex. She knows all the rules. She's like, they're not supposed to be out there. And she's like, okay, I'm like in the moonlight. So she says, she tries to climb down, and she's trying to hear what they're saying. So she says, I'm going to climb down. And she says, sticks to the shadows around her, which...
Excuse me?
Zayden is shadow powered. It's him, which we find out that he knows she was there the whole time because he was cloaking you, girl. Like, he knew she was up there. So, anyhow, so Zayden is like, he essentially is just meeting with them. Like, it wasn't anything like shady. He basically looked out for these kids. He's the oldest of all of them, and he's also been there longest. And so he basically is like, you just have to stick together, be smart, stay strong, and. Oh, but then she does hear someone say, like, so when do we get to kill Violet? And he's like, no one gets to kill Violet. I get to kill Violet. Like, she's mine or whatever. And we do learn that because Imogen, like, pulled Violet's shoulder out or whatever, Dane, like, is making her do dishes or whatever. So she's pissed about that. And they talk about Violet's mom, being responsible for all their parents. And they all leave. Violet thinks they're gone. I don't know why. And she comes down, and of course, like, Zayden, like, sneaks up behind her. And he knew she was there the whole time because, again, he's a shadow wielder. He's and it's a super
He
strong.
is the shadows.
Like, he's Shadow Daddy. Like, come on. So, Vi, we find out, she is really good with daggers, so she throws daggers at him. Again, it's Divergent.
Right?
Come on. And he was like, he basically asked her, like, are you going to tell on us? And she's like, no, because she knows, like, that this could be, like, a criminal offense. Like, they could die. And she's like, they didn't even do anything. I'm not going to tell on them. And she also is, like, considering, though, like, Dane would tell on them. Like, she knows that. And Vi goes back, and we find out that she has signed up for breakfast duty because that's how she's going to do her poisons. Our girl's smart. So she is headed to breakfast duty. Rhiannon is hooking up with Tara or Tara, doing her thing. And she's in the hallway with Dane when Rhiannon comes out of the room. And, of course, he's like a boring rule follower. You're not supposed to be in the room. Like, shut up. We don't care. Because all the writers are like, we can die at any second of any day. Like, let them enjoy their freaking life. So, anywho, Vi is up for her, like, first sparring match, and she used some, like, dried berries, and she's, like, sparring with Oren, so she put whatever in, like, the eggs, and, we'll see what it does in just a minute. So, before the sparring match, they have class where they learn about the dragons a little bit more, so we learn that there's, like, 100 dragons this year that are willing to bond, which is less, so they have less opportunity to bond this year. Of course, Zayden has, like, the strongest and fiercest dragon, blah, 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 because it's Zayden. We learn about black dragons, which are extremely rare, and they're, like, the most cunning. And there is one out there, but he hasn't been seen, like, in years, and he's one of the deadliest. We learned that the previous rider of the black dragon had a siphon signet, and he died, and essentially he died because he was trying to resurrect Violet's brother, Brennan, and that killed him. So... yeah.
My question, and I made sure that I wrote it down, was, why would somebody risk their life to save
Right. Which I've
Brennan?
seen that. Like, were they a couple? Or, I don't know.
What was going on with that?
I don't know. So many questions. So, after that class... she starts to spar with Oren, and he, like, turns green. And so she wins by default because he throws up everywhere.
He can't stop vomiting.
So for, like, the next couple of weeks, like, she basically does this for, like, all her matches. She, like, poisons someone with mushrooms and, like, some other root poison. She, like, messed up someone's vision. They couldn't see her. She's basically won, like, 5 daggers from 5 opponents. So, like, one week she comes in there, like, she's feeling, like, she is, like, feeling like the head honcho. So Zayden is like, they're like, oh, your person can't come. So she's like, okay, like, I guess I'll leave. And Zayden was like, no. Oh, you can spar me. She's like, I'm sorry. So, of course, like, we get, like, a lot of tension. It's real hot and heated here. And he, like, he roasted her. Like, he took every single one of her daggers, which also, like, the whole time she's like, okay, like, he's gonna kill me, because she's still thinking, like, he's gonna kill her at any moment. And so this is, like, embarrassing, because it's in front of everyone, too. And so she's, like, nervous, but he's basically disarming her. She's getting pissed off. And we get her nickname, which he starts calling her Violence, and I love it.
Love it.
He, like, lets her know, like, I know that you've been poisoning your, like, opponents. And he tells her, like, it is smart. Like, he's not mad about it. But he's like, you also have to learn how to do this. She knows, like, that she likes him. Like, she admits, like, yeah, he's hot. We know. And he tells her, like, Dane is holding you back. Which he is. He's not encouraging her.
Definitely babying her.
Because the reality is, you're in the writer's quadrant. There's not a way out of it. I don't know what Dane thinks is happening, but there's not a way out of it. And by not learning, you're only going to be a weakness. So, we do learn that Dane doesn't... She meets up with Dane, like, after this, and she kind of asks him, like, do you think that Xaden's, like, doing something? And he does say no, because Xaden is bonded to a dragon. The dragons are loyal to Navarre. Like, he's like, I don't think that, you know, the dragons would be working with him if they knew that he was out to do something bad. And we also learned that Vi has been getting threats, like, someone crushed up Violets, or, like, they push and shove her around, and, like, Dane is still trying to get her to go to the scribes, like, blah, 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 blah. He's so annoying. And then, like, we kind of get the names of some other people in the squad. So we have Tynan. I'm like, it's one of those. Tynan. We have Rhiannon. We have Violet. Riddick. Sawyer, which Sawyer is a repeat. Oralee, Luca, who is a girl. And Pryor.
I love Riddick and Sawyer, too.
Yes,
I mean, Rhiannon, of course, also.
Yes, I do really like their, the group, yeah. So they finally start practicing for the gauntlet, which is essentially like a vertical obstacle course, because that is how they have to, like, show their worth to get to the flight field. And
my whole, like, the thing I was imagining when I was thinking of it was, what is it? Like American Ninja. Yes, Warrior. American Ninja Warrior.
Yes, but vertical. Because it's like, there are stairs, but they're not allowed to take the stairs. Like, they have to prove that they can do this thing. And so they're practicing, and so they, like, the teacher basically has Sawyer go, because he's done it before. So he does it, and they're like, okay. And so then they all are asked to do it. And Oralee is, like, excited, because she was like, her dad used to set up obstacle courses. So they're going through it, and she literally falls off and dies the first day they practice.
And I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious?
Anytime anybody gets excited in this book, it's a red flag. Violet's like, she's too small. Like, she's to, like, do these, like, leaps and jumps and things. Essentially, like, the purpose of the course is so that, like, they'll know how to, like, run up and mount their dragon. Like, there is a purpose to it, because they, like, if you're in the middle of a battle, like, you do have to be able to run and mount this dragon. And, like, it has, like, spinning beams and rolling, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. So she's like, basically, I'm gonna die. And they can't come down. Like when they're practicing, they can come down, but, like, on the actual day, like, they either do it or they don't. There's no
do it or die.
Yeah. So Vi, like, when Oralee dies, like, that really hurts her, because she's like, you know, it's like one thing, you know, the parapet thing, but she was getting close to people. And she was, like, kind of, like, reflecting, like, Mira told her, like, not to trust people, which is one thing, but also just because, like, don't open your heart, because you're gonna lose people. And so she goes out to, like, burn her stuff, because Oralee family, like, was like, no, we're not coming to get her stuff. So she goes out to burn her stuff, and she runs into Xaden, because, again, she's at, out past curfew, and she's like, are you gonna kill me? Because she's like, life sucks, so she's like, just kill me. Like, whatever. Like, come on, like, just do it.
Get it over with.
And he doesn't, like, he's not going to. We know that Xaden's not going to kill her. He basically tells her, like, quit, like, having self-pity. And he's like, just because, like, there's a right way to do something doesn't mean it's the only way. And he's really just trying to, like, encourage her to, like, think outside of the box. Vibe has basically come up with another way. We do find out on Gauntlet Day that there's now only 171 first years. And they started with 368.
Yikes.
So, yeah, they are dwindling. Are we even? Yeah, so, yeah, we're less than half. That's crazy. So, 171. Literally the day of the gauntlet, they're walking, and Dane is still like, okay, but we could just go to the scribe quadrant. Like, please shut up. Please. Please go away. So Vi hasn't even practiced like half of the course because she can never get that far. Like, she hasn't even seen it, so we have no idea if she can do it. So she essentially uses uses a rope during the course, and then she brings these daggers and she like sticks them in the side of like the mountain to like get herself up there. So she does complete the gauntlet, but then like this girl Amber Mavis, she's one of the wing leaders, blah blah blah, she is so bent out of shape. She's like, she's cheating, and Violet knows, like, she knows the rope was a penalty, so she took, like, a time penalty, because they timed them for this, too. But because there's something in the codex that, like, says that they are allowed to, like, carry whatever they can on their person, that the dagger wasn't cheating, and so...
That it was technically an extension of her.
Yes.
So...
Yeah, so it wasn't technically cheating. So Amber's pissed, but Vi's allowed to do it, so she makes it up there. And up until Orally died, their squad was the only squad that had no deaths. So they actually still have like the most intact squad of all of the first years. So everyone else like made it up except for, Orally dying. So after they make it up to the top, they do their presentation, which is essentially them just walking past the dragons and coming back. So just from the gauntlet to the presentation, we lose 2 people. It doesn't say who. We do find out Vi wasn't the slowest person, even with a penalty, so that's good. And so the dragons just, like, sit there. They're told to stand 7 feet apart in case the dragons decide to kill some of them. Like, don't stand too close because you might get burned. And there's a feather tail there, which is extremely rare.
Never been seen as far as they have mentioned.
And they don't bond, so they're like, why is it even here? But there's one there. And so they just walk down. There's like some red dragons, there's brown, orange, there's basically every color that there is. And so they're all like talking, and then the cadets we don't like, so like Luca and what's it again? Tynan.
Yes.
Tynan. They're like talking bad about the feather tail.
Like, ew, it's yellow.
Which I'm like, these are dragons. I don't care what. Like,
right.
It's got teeth. And that's what Violet, she's like, they can hear you. Like, the dragons, like, they can hear them. Mm-hmm. So they're walking. And then Pryor, we do like Pryor, but Pryor's very indecisive. And so they're like, I think he's in the front. So they're like, which way should they go? And he's like, I mean, we can go this way or that way. And so Vi's like, okay, let me just distract them. So she starts talking about the fables and the wyvern again. And all of a sudden, like, they ask Pryor something else. He's being indecisive, and literally one of the dragons burns him up. And I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Dang. Mm. And then, as they're walking, like, Vi, like, wasn't paying attention. All of a sudden, these 2 green dragons are in her face, sniffing all over her. And it's because she has the vest on with the dragon scales that are her sister's dragon. And she's like, oh, like, these are for my sister. You spell Tiny is the dragon's name. And so she's, like, trying to talk them down, which they, they don't do anything. They, like, look at her and they go off. And so then they start walking again, and then Luca starts talking about how Vi is the weakest link, and talking about, like, good thing they killed Pryor, because he, like, now that Pryor's dead, Vi's the weakest link, because Pryor was the weakest link, and they kill her, too.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, bye.
Yeah, so now there's only 6 first years left in the squad. So now we know it's, like, October 1st, and we're pretty much getting ready for threshing. Mm-hmm. And Dane's trying to talk her into getting a brown dragon because it's probably the safest thing out there. It's probably like a teddy bear. They're told, like, when they go out there, they need to go by themselves. Like, really listen to your, like, gut. They'll feel like a pool when they know that there's a dragon. If you don't feel it, like, if you see a dragon and you don't feel that, like, run. Because we find out, like, later, like, if you're, like, too close to a dragon that's not yours, like, they don't like that.
You won't be for very long.
Yeah, they'll kill you. So she's like looking, she's not finding anything, but what she does see and hear is Jack, Orin, and Tynan, and they are trying to hunt down, they're not even looking for their dragon, they're trying to find the feather tail so that they can kill it, because they're like, it's the weakest link, it needs to die. So Vi is just walking and trips over her ankle. She trips over a stick. So she's injured, but she's like, I have to find, like, the feather tail. So she had seen it in a clearing, so she goes, and so it's so funny, but she goes and she's like waving her hand. She's like, you gotta get out of here. Like, they're coming to kill you. And the dragon's just like, blink, blink, blink. She's like, can you even fly? Can you do anything? can you do something? Can you go? And
Crush them with your freaking talons. Oh, you don't have any.
She's like, she looks at it, she's like, oh, soft little baby claws. She's like, there's nothing there. So that doesn't happen. So of course Jack and them find her and they basically start fighting. Which she gave him a run.
3-on-1, like
yeah, she was doing it. Like she's good with those daggers. She throws a dagger and Jack hits him in the arm. He runs off. How he had friends after this, I do not know.
Swear.
Because Oren lives after this, and how he didn't tell everybody, I don't know. Because I don't know he was knocked out yet.
No.
So Jack runs off, and somehow Oren ends up getting knocked out. Xaden ends up coming, though, and Xaden cannot interfere during threshing, even though he wants to, because he ends up, like, kind of taking a step. And what we find out is Xaden also has Sigel with him, which is his dragon. And as, like, this is all going down, this huge, big, black dragon lands behind Vi. And all of a sudden, she can hear him talking. Which we know, like, they don't talk, like, out loud. And she's like, oh, wait. Oh. Like, she's like, I hear you in my head. Which means, like, that's her dragon. So he roasts Tynan. He's gone. Tynan tries to run off, and then he tells her, like, his name is Taryn. He has, like, a really long name. I cannot say it again. We're gonna call him Taryn. And he tells Violet, like, you need to kill Oren because he's knocked out, and Violet doesn't want to kill anybody. So she doesn't. So Violet has realized that she's bonded with Taryn, and Taryn makes her mount him, and he's like, why are you bleeding? Do you bleed all the time? Because her, like, her hands are bleeding from the gauntlet, and that she got, like, sliced by one of them during the fight, and like, Taryn's so funny. Like, he's so condescending. I love him. And she's like, I can't mount you. Like, she's like, I can't. So he, like, leans down, which is so degrading for a dragon. And so she, like, gets up there, and she is barely hanging on. It makes me think of, I'm trying to think. I can't think right now when somebody has, like... Do you watch House of the Dragon?
No.
Oh my gosh. If you watch House of the Dragon, when Aemon steals Vhagar, and he was like a little boy, and he was, like, flying for the first time and barely hanging on, that scene, if anybody's seen it, that's what this makes me think of. I'll have to show it to you, because that's what it makes me think of. And so, like, she falls off, and he has to keep catching her, and he's like, you are embarrassing me. He's like, you're an embarrassment to my entire family line. He is roasting her, like, the entire time. They're so funny. So he, like, puts on this big show, and he basically, like, is like, he chose her because she saved the other dragon. And they land, and of course, everybody's like, what? Like, Violet is the weakest person in the entire quadrant, and she has got the biggest, baddest dragon. The dragon, he wasn't even supposed to be picking anyone.
Yeah. So
essentially what we find out is Sigel called him to come and help. And what they do when they land is they're supposed to go up to, like, this bookkeeper, and they say, they're supposed to tell them the name of the dragon. Vi's mom is there, and she, like, the bookkeeper is like, gonna say, because this dragon, Taryn has been bonded before, they know his name, so the bookkeeper was going to say his name, and her mom's like, no, I want to hear her say it, because like she doesn't believe that Vi bonded him. So she says it, and then as she's saying it, the Feathertail goes, and Andarna, and so we learn that the Feathertail's name is Andarna, and that she's bonded two dragons, which has never been heard of before, and it starts a complete chaotic fight. They start to fight, and they're like, basically they have to take it up with, like, the head dragon or whatever. Meanwhile, Vi goes to the like, healers, and Jack's in there. They start fighting, because that's what they do. We learn that there was another friend of theirs. Her name was Trina. She did die. She actually bonded a dragon, but she fell off, which that does happen a lot, too. We learned that Sawyer bonds a dragon, so he doesn't have to repeat again. So, because he repeated his first year already, and that would have sucked. So, he does bond a dragon. Rhiannon does. Everyone else pretty much does, so... That's pretty good. Of course, Dane brings his, like, horrible self up, and he's like, take the little dragon. Don't keep Taryn. Which, first of all, it's not up to her.
Right.
It's not up to anyone but the dragons, which is what the dragons say. And also, like, please, stop. Like, he just can't help himself. And so, what we find out is that Xaden's dragon, Sigel, and Taryn are mated. And that means that those dragons always have to be together. So that essentially means that Xaden and Violet always have to be together, which I love. And Dane hates. He's dying on the inside. We learn that the head dragon basically vote, and they're going to allow them to keep both dragons. So the people are pissed, but it's not... And Taryn's like, it's not up to humans. So all of the new dragon riders like line up, and basically the dragons burn them, and they give them like these really cool tattoos that signify their bond. And so what Taryn gives Vi is like a tattoo of him and Andarna like on her back, and so it's really cool. And also, I also tried to write down all of these. Dane, when they were talking, touches her face, which I try to highlight all the times that Dane touches her. So I just want to point that out. And so after the dragons mark them, Vi like starts to view herself through Andarna so that she can actually see. So we learned that that's something that they can do, and she can see the tattoo. And then Dane comes up, apologizes, and then puts his lips on Vi, and I am disgusted. And Violet's like, I should be happy, and I don't like this. So she like, we learned that like that attraction, it's gone, it's done. I'm glad. Blech. Put your lips off of me. So that is over, so now they can really kind of focus on finding their power, which is really the next thing. And so anytime that we learn a power, I try to, like, bring it up in here. For example, there's a person that will meet in the book, Emery. They can do air manipulation. I've already mentioned Violet's mom. She is a storm wielder. Professor Milgren?
General
Milgren. Mm-hmm. He can see, like, the outcome of battles before they even happen. So the other thing that's essential now is that because, and I don't even know if they say it here, but because Taryn and Sigale are mated, we kind of go back to the whole a rider without their dragon is dead. If Violet dies, Taryn could die. If Taryn dies, Sigale's probably going to die. And Xaden will die. So, essentially, like, nobody can die around this place.
Yeah,
because
they need each other to survive, pretty much.
Which is, at this current moment, they're kind of still, like, mortal enemies. So, now they have to, like, rework this. And so that's kind of what we're going to get into in this next section.
And thinking about that, I wonder if it plays with both dragons, like, if something happened to Andarna.
Oh, yeah. That's true. I kind of forget. That's a different... I kind of forget about
that.
I
don't know if that...
I know, because you have two
dragons.
You have two life forces, like, holding you. I'm sure nobody knows, because no one's ever bonded two dragons. That's interesting. I wonder if Rebecca even realizes that. Because, like, you just put stuff in, like, a plot hole kind of thing. That's a good point, though. But that is something, like, we're going to see, like, coming up now. So, the next, like, several chapters is really just Vi training. Like, now, like, Xaden's, like, on her because he's like, you have to get stronger. You have to protect yourself. Sawyer's, like, the first one to get his signet. He can manipulate metals. Taryn starts to call Violet Silver One, so we've got two nicknames. We've got Silver One and Violence.
And I love them both.
Yes. And Taryn does not like Dane. And he'll be like, if he touches me, I will burn the flesh from his bone. His, like...
I love Taryn.
I do. He might be my favorite.
Yeah.
I love him so much. And Vi finally kind of cuts Dane off. And she basically tells him, like, they'll never be more than friends because he doesn't believe in her. Like, she's sick of him always trying to save her and give her the safest option or whatever. So
even though she's made it this far.
Yeah, like, he just doesn't believe in her or support her. And while this all happens, a boy, like, runs out of the dorm and he's, like, screaming because he can read minds. So I said it, like, a while ago that we meet some people that are called intrinsics, which is not the same as Dane because Dane has to physically touch people. An intrinsic does not have to. And so he basically runs out and he, like, looks at you and, like he looks at Dane because this is right as him and Violet are having this conversation. And Dane's literally, like, thinking, like, well, why does Violet feel this way about me? And, like, the boy is saying this, and literally, like, the professor who teaches them how to wield their powers walks up to him and snaps his neck. Mm-hmm. Because they do not let them live.
Well, and prior to that all happening, Xaden was there too.
Yes.
And he told Violet to think of something
facts.
Yeah.
He's like, if you want to save your secrets, think of facts. And his cousin Garrick, because the boys started to, like, speak like Garrick, and Garrick was like, how am I gonna And because, you know, they've got something going on that won't
Oh no, they're gonna know about.
Yeah, they're going to know about,
like...
yeah, and so, yeah, they don't, it's a danger to be able to do that. Especially because they can't seem to control, well, I mean, I'm sure if they allowed them to live and train them, but they kill them.
They don't want just anybody's minds to be read.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about Dane, like, it comes back up towards the end of the book about him and his power. This same evening, Vi is sleeping, which again, she always sleeps in her vest, and she gets attacked in her sleep. And so it's essentially like 7 students who are unbonded, and then there is actually a bonded writer in there who tries to kill her. So she gets up and she's using her daggers, but she's you know, overwhelmed. One girl runs out, which she recognizes, and it's Amber Mavis. Violet's getting attacked, and Taryn's telling Sigale to get Xaden there, so Xaden's on his way. But Andarna, because right now Andarna doesn't, like, she can't do anything. Like, Andarna's not big enough for Violet to ride. She can fly, but that's, you know, on her own. She doesn't have any claws or any powers. So Vi is, like, trying to defend herself, and all of a sudden, like, time just, like, stops. Everyone in the room freezes, and Violet is like, what the heck? Which we'll find out in a minute is Andarna. She gave her power, essentially, which we'll talk about just a second. So that happens, and then Xaden comes, and I'm in love. So Xaden comes, and he's, like, in the doorway, and he is like, you know, like, I'm about to burn the world for you. And he is like, you all are getting ready to die. He literally, all of them, because Oren is one of them. So Oren, who she did not kill during threshing, who she should have, he doesn't kill him right away because he's, like, holding him, but he literally uses his freaking shadows, and he grabs all of them by the throats with his shadows and snaps their freaking necks. And I am unwell. So, and then he, like, slices Orange throat or something. I don't even know how he killed him. I don't care. It was the shadows. I don't know. I'm in love. So there's that. Xaden basically grabs Violet, and he's like, you know, we have to go. So they take, like, some secret passage that she didn't know about out, and they, like, meet with the dragons, with their dragons. So Andarna, Taryn, and Sigale. And Xaden starts talking to Taryn, and, like, Taryn's responding, and Violet was getting ready to tell Xaden, and Xaden, like, starts replying to him, and she's like, how can you hear him? Well, because Taryn and Sigale are mated, we find out that Xaden can actually talk to Taryn, which never happens otherwise. So any other time, the only people that can talk to dragons are their mated or their bonded rider. If you're not bonded to a dragon, you can't communicate with them. They can hear you, but, like, you can't hear what they're saying. But because Sigale and Taryn are bonded, Xaden can hear what Taryn says, and Vi can hear what Sigale says, and also include Andarna and all that. Well, I don't know, because she's not...
he could not hear Andarna.
Yeah, he can't hear Andarna. So never mind. Scratch Andarna. So we do learn that. And then we also learn that Feathertails have strange powers. So Feathertails in general have weird powers while they're Feathertails, because Feathertails are like toddlers.
Yeah.
They're not hatchlings, which would be babies, but they're essentially toddlers. And different than a dragon that's full grown, when dragons are full grown, they give their rider a signet. A signet is like a power that already existed in a person, and the dragon
just amplifies it.
So a Feathertail, when they're still in that, like, toddler stage, instead of them, like, channeling to amplify a person's power, they just, like, give them their actual power. So Andarna's power currently is that she can stop time only for a little bit of time, and it completely, like, drains her. Yeah, because Andarna's gonna sleep for, like, the next week, essentially. But that's why they keep Feathertails aren't really supposed to be out, because they, like, essentially they know, like, if the, like, head people got a hold of them, they would be dangerous, because that's, like, they would want to know what they could do with them. And when Feathertails grow up, they don't always have the same powers. Like, they go away and things like that. So we have no idea, like, when Andarna grows up, what will happen with that power. We also learned that Andarna's parents died, because Xaden's pissed at first, because he's like, is this your baby?
You did not tell me.
Yeah, he's like, I've been around for 3 years. When did y'all have a baby? And Sigale's like, how dare you accuse me of having a baby and not telling you? They're like, no, her parents died. And so, like, you know, she has elders, but, like, she kind of does what she wants. And they were like, we never would have let her, like, come down here if we knew she was going to be bonding with people and stuff.
She's a stubborn little tot.
Yeah, she is. We learn all that. So now Xaden introduces Liam, which Liam is another of... I
love Liam.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Love Liam. We get to meet Liam. He is another of the rebellion kids. He also was like a foster kid with Xaden. We kind of learned that obviously they executed all of their parents, so they had to live somewhere, and they were essentially put with other leaders, and so Xaden and Liam were in the same household, so they're kind of like brothers. And Liam's like top of the first years. He's like badass, strong, everything. So he moves him squad. So after Threshing, because like so many people had died, they like reorganized the squads and moved people around. So Xaden swaps him with somebody else that we didn't care about. And Liam is like Violet's new bodyguard, and she's pissed. Mm-hmm. She is like, I don't need a bodyguard, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, you do. She also admits to us, like, she knows that she's attracted to Xaden. Like, girl, we knew. And Xaden is pissed about what happened. So he reports this Amber Mavis thing.
Oh, my.
Yes. So they're, like, all outside. And Vi, like, does not know what's going on. She's just like, da-da-da, having a day. Like, Xaden goes up there and, like, they're reading the death roll. And they're like, all these people died, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, Xaden killed them, which he's allowed to do because, you know, they weren't asleep. Violet was. But so he gets up there and he accuses Amber Mavis, which, one, she was a wing leader, but two, we learned that like a while back that her and Dane actually like hooked up a little bit. They had like a thing, and she's like a rule follower like Dane. So of course when Xaden is like telling everyone like she attacked Violet, because Xaden's whole thing was like, how did they even get in your room? Because her door was locked. It had to be someone with magic and she was a wing leader, so she was able to find a map to find out where her room was and use magic to unlock her door. So that's why because the Unbondeds don't have magic, so they wouldn't have been able to do it. So Dane has the audacity to like look at Violet and be like, he's lying. Like, tell him to stop lying. And Violet's sitting here with bruises all on her neck.
Right.
Like, what? And then he says, give me your memories. He doesn't ask. Like, he literally reaches for
like
her.
It is so natural. Like, he deserves it.
Yeah, and she steps back. Like, no. So instead of allowing him to do that, she asked Taryn if he can share her memory. Also because right after that, they went and talked to the dragons, and Taryn told her, like, you can't tell people about Indarna's powers. And again, we don't know, like, what Dane can do. So, you know, she's like, one, no, and two, I don't want him to see that because we know that Dane is a snitch. He's a rule follower. So she asked Taryn to share the memory with the dragons, and Taryn, you know, tells us that it's not something they normally do. It's considered like improper, but he does, and he only shows the part they need to. And basically all the dragons share it with all of their riders, and like everybody is like, they're pissed. And so Amber like is like, she says that she tried to tell Xaden that Xaden's just mad at her because Amber's dad wouldn't do what Xaden's dad, like, tries to use that whole thing. And then her dragon tries to, like, argue with Taryn a little bit, but we know Taryn's, like, the biggest, baddest, so he's like, So Taryn burns her, and then her dragon just, like, cries. And Vi, like, is trying to talk Xaden out of killing her. Like, she's like, because I don't know where she thought this was going.
Right.
I'm like, first of all, she tried to kill you. Secondly, you're in the Riders Quadrant. They kill people here. So she's like, right before, like, Taryn does it, she's like, no, wait, like, maybe we can talk and, like, we can work this out. And Taryn's like, no. He's like, I allowed someone to live before, and he tried to kill you last night. Again, he's like, I'm not doing that. So Taryn kills her, and, like, she looks at Xaden, and Xaden looks at her like, sorry, it has to be done. So no more Amber. She's gone. Vi gets over that. I mean, you know, whatever. We spend some time with Liam, and we get a little bit more information because, again, remember that Vi was a scribe, so she's privy to a lot of knowledge that people don't know. First off, we learn that, you know, Liam's telling her about his parents being killed, and she's like, well, I understand, like, your mom got killed. Why didn't you go live with your dad? And he's like, because my dad got killed too. And she's like, your dad's name wasn't on the death roll. And he's like, why would you read that? Which she read it because she wanted to make sure that Xaden's dad was killed, because essentially, you know, Xaden's dad is supposedly who also killed her brother, which I think I have left out. So we know that Brennan, Vi's brother, was killed. He was supposedly killed by Xaden's dad, who then was in turn killed by Vi's mom. So Vi's mom not only killed him because he was a traitor, but also he did kill her son. So Liam is talking to her about that. And then Liam also is telling Violet about the fostering, which Violet did not know. And it's not commonly known that the kids of the rebellion were fostered. And she also doesn't know that the kids of the rebellion were all forced to join the Riders Quadrant. She thinks that they're all just choosing this, which why, I don't know. But they are all forced to join the Riders Quadrant as part of some agreement. So we do find out there's 107 rebellion kids, with Xaden being the oldest. And Liam also mentioned he does have a sister who's 1 year behind him that'll be joining the next year. The next couple of chapters are really just like some more fighting. We do get a pretty nice scene of Garrick and Xaden sparring shirtless. And like everybody is like drooling all over themselves. Dane is pissed again.
Even some of the guys.
Yeah, they're like hubba 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 hubba. Like this is like the first time Xaden, I think, took off his shirt. There's that. Taryn actually finally starts to channel to Vi. So for the longest time, Taryn was telling her like, you're not ready. And finally, he decides, like, I'm going to channel. And it's because him and Sigale are mating.
Oh, God, this part.
So, like, Vi's in her room, and she's like, I feel kind of weird. Then she has all this pain. She's like, oh, he's channeling. Then she's like, what in the heck? She goes in the hallway because Liam's out there because he's her bodyguard. And she's like, Liam's looking kind of cute. And then she's like, no, this is because of Taryn. She's like, I got to get out of here. So she goes and she finds Xaden. And Xaden's like, obviously Xaden can feel the same things, but he's been dealing with this. Xaden's like, essentially he's like kind of smoking weed, is what it is. And he's like, it's kind of hard, isn't it? Like, yeah, he's like, yeah, you're struggling, huh? And and he's like offering, she's like, no. So he teaches her what they call shielding, and she basically, they use like some kind of mental block, which hers is the archives. She like visualizes shutting this door and locking it, which helps her like tamp down on these feelings. And we also get our first kiss with Xaden. But it's cut short because Xaden knows, like, most of her feelings are coming... Well, he assumes most of her feelings are coming from Sigale and Taryn and not her own. Like, he wants to know that these are her pure feelings, not tampered by the channeling. But just a note that we do get a little bit of thunder and lightning in the background. So... some other things that happen, we get Rhiannon's signet, which is summoning. So we are just steady.
Which is cool.
But Vi still hasn't got hers. But she's channeling, so she feels the power, but she hasn't shown her signet, essentially. Vi and Dane keep arguing. Now they're arguing about the Amber issue again and about Xaden because he's bitter. And he keeps touching on her. I just want to keep mentioning that. But unfortunately, Jack finally gets to challenge Vi to the mat. He essentially uses his powers and he tries to kill her. I don't know if they ever say what Jack's power is, but he was like shocking her. Like he was grabbing her and like they were because Vi finds out that he's going to challenge her because she still knows how to do that. And she tells Liam like, you can't tell Xaden because I can't like keep doing that. So he doesn't tell him until like the match starts. But even when they come to try to help her, like, they physically can't separate them because, like, he's shocking her. But Vi has found out that Jack is allergic to oranges. So she has, like, a vial of oranges and, like, shoves them in his mouth so hard she breaks one of his teeth. And unfortunately, he doesn't die. So after that moment, Xaden's pissed off. And he's decided that he's going to take over on her training because he feels like, everyone else doesn't really push her as hard. So she's still training.
Because she was training with Rhiannon and Imogen.
Yes.
But she needs a little more than what
she was getting.
Yeah.
So we also have a couple more challenges coming up. So they do this thing called the squad battle. And like they do all these rankings. And so currently there's 10 in their squad. And one of their challenges is that they have to... they have to find something in Basgiath that could be advantageous to the enemy. It could be anything besides a dragon. And so they decide that they're going to steal something, which we find later is a map. And then they go to Vi's office because obviously like she's like the vice president.
Mom's.
Yeah, her mom's office. So Vi's like, let's go to her mom's office, which they end up, when they don't know what they're going to take from there. But when they get there, they end up taking this map that shows like all the forts or whatever, all their like posts, that's what they call them, posts. And so we do kind of get an idea of what everyone's doing so far. So we know that Riddick can wield ice, Imogen can mind wipe, which I feel like is very important. Rhiannon can summon again. Sawyer can manipulate metal. We meet someone named Heaton. He can breathe underwater. Emery again, who can control wind. Quinn is cool. She can astral project. Mm-hmm. I feel like Liam sucks. He has farsight. I mean, he can just see really far away. I guess that's kind of cool. But after, like, they get there, I mean...
What's it gonna do for you?
I mean, whatever. We meet someone named Nadine, and she can unweave wards, which again is like the protections. And so they break into Vi's mom's office, and they steal the map. But she also noticed there's like a strange dagger in there on her desk. And they do end up winning that little challenge. We do learn that also another problem Vi is having is that she can't stay mounted on Taryn. Like, she is constantly falling off. He has to keep catching her. She's getting stronger, but she just cannot stay on like everyone else can. They end up going to an outpost. They see Mira there, and so she does get to catch up with Mira a little bit. We learned that Mira's signet is that she can extend the ward, so like that would stop people that break in, I guess, from being able to use their magic. Of course, Dane gets jealous because who shows up but Xaden, because he's like, oh, our dragons can't be apart. I was like, you were gone for like a day. He tells us that they can't be apart more than 3 days. I don't even know if it was that long. But while they're there is a griffin attack, and she pissed me off here because she's like, oh, no, I had to stay to do, what are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do? So she tries to stay, and Xaden kisses her, and it distracts her, and he's like, you have to leave. So she was, like, pissed about that. Mira's fine. She doesn't die or anything. And so then they do another battle. And so this final battle, they have, like, 2 tasks. They have to protect their flag, but they're also trying to steal this egg from another squad. And so when they're preparing for all this, we find out that Xaden has actually had a saddle made for Taryn to help Vi stay in the mountain.
How cute.
It's so cute. And like him and Taryn have been like working, and they have like this like cute little like feisty relationship. And like Taryn's like, and he pinched me. And then Xaden's like, well, how was I supposed to know? And then he was like, well, he wouldn't let me ride him. He was like, you'll ride me when blah, blah, blah.
When the flesh rots off my bones or something like that.
They're so funny. I love it so much. Like, they're so cute. So during this squad battle, which really shouldn't be like vicious, of course Jack is on a kill spree, and he attacks Liam. He stabs him in the side, and Liam actually like is like falling off. He's about to die. So Vi asks Andarna to send her power again, and she slows time so she's able to save him. And then Vi is pissed, so she channels all her strength and power, and she summons thunder and lightning, which we got a little sneak peek of when she kissed Xaden. And Xaden does later tell us, like, he thought that was her signet, but he couldn't be sure, but we know for sure it is now. So she hits, like, this tower that Jack was on or nearby, and he basically gets hit with this, like, rock avalanche, and he's out of here.
Yep. Dunzo.
Yay!
Thank gosh.
Which, of course, like, she has to be self-sacrificing. So, of course, she's, like, broken up. She's not sad that he's dead, but she's sad that she killed him. Like, she doesn't want to be a murderer. Mm-hmm. She was hoping that her signet was mending, like Brennan's. You know, she wants to be a healer and all these nice things. So she does have a bit of a meltdown. We do find out Liam did not die, so we're happy about that. And, of course, we get delusional Dane, who's like, well, Vi, you don't ever have to use your power.
It's coddling and just...
Yeah. And Xaden snaps. He's like, first of all, yes, she does. Secondly, like, she is going to be, like, one of the best weapons. Like, do you think that her mom is going to just let her, like, sit on a shelf? Like,
Plus, our dragons are, you know, mated. Like,
yes.
She's going to be...
Yeah, he's like, she's going to be on the first lines with me. And he's like, he looks at her, he's like, Violet, you killed somebody? It sucks. Like, he's like, you know, he tells her what she needs to hear. And that's what they need. So, yeah. Delusional. So, Vi goes to her room. She's, like, pouting or whatever. And we finally get a sexy scene. So, they hook up. Because she's like, basically, she's like, I just want to forget about everything. So, they end up hooking up. And we also learn, post their little hookup, that Xaden has a bunch of, like, lash marks on him. Mm-hmm. He has 107, to be exact. And what we put together is that what Xaden has done is, when it all went down with the rebellion kids, Xaden essentially took like 107 beatings and in a trade to allow the rebellion kids the chance to join the Riders Quadrant, because otherwise they were probably just going to kill them all.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much vouching that they aren't going to really be like
a problem.
Yeah.
And if he does anything wrong, they'll kill him and them probably. And he doesn't say it, but I mean, I'm sure it was her mom. Her mom knows. Because we do get, I can't remember where that scene was, but...
There was some issues with the mom. There was some stuff that they didn't know.
And she says that there's a scene where, is it when they were going up to one of the flight fields, and she runs into her mom, and he's there, and he was like... She said something to him, like something about apologizing or something, and Xaden says, I thought I had already done all the apologizing, or something like that.
And then Dane brings up something about, there's some things that you don't know between, I think it was Dane.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Between your mom and Xaden. I think it was Dane.
Yeah, I'm sure Dane knows. So, I think... I don't know. I mean, Vi is naive. She really is. But, yeah. So, we're learning more about that. Vi starts working more on honing her power because what also happens is when they hook up, she destroys her entire room with lightning, except for her bed. But we also learned she also, like, took down some trees and a fort.
Started a fire
Yeah, started a fire. And they think she did that in her sleep. So they're like, yeah, we need to practice. And Xaden's so cute. He he doesn't like sneak out on her, but he sneaks out before she wakes up, and he gets her some violets.
Goodness.
He's adorable. She whatever the professor is that like works on that, he like comes and gets her, and he's trying to like get her to work on her power, and he's like, just feel whatever you felt. And Taryn goes, should I get the wing leader?
I died.
So, and we also learn that because of the mated bond between Sigale and Taryn, and we learned this a little back, is that Vi and Xaden can talk to each other through their minds. So Xaden hears this, so he basically starts sending her images of like how he felt through all of it, and so she's feeling all of that again, and she's able to like summon her or wield her power again. So they're trying to work on her like being able to aim her lightning, which she still can't do, but it's cute. And so her and Xaden like work on cleaning up her room, and she finds the Book of Fables, which Mira had gave her when they were at that post, and it's kind of old and falling apart, and she finds a note from her dad, which is like kind of ominous.
And it's like hidden in the binding of the book.
And it makes me think like, did her dad really die?
Right. Thinking the same thing.
I'm like, or did someone kill him? I don't know, because it's basically like, first of all, we learned that book, she looks for it like a couple of months back in the library, and there's no record of it. And so we know, like, they don't really want the knowledge of the folklore out there. He's basically kind of like, knowledge is power, like, be smart, Vi, like, all these things. And she's like, why would he
And it only takes, like, one generation to...
remove history kind of thing. Yeah. And in that book, like, it contains information on... So we already learned about, like, the griffins, but there's also things called Venin and Wyvern. And Venin are basically, they were humans, but they basically have tried to channel so much power that, like, the magic overtakes them. So they're, like, pale with, like, red veins, like, spider veins and, like, red eyes.
And they're like the boogeyman that all the parents would threaten their kids with.
Yes, and they fly these things called Wyvern, and they like channel power to them, kind of like the dragons do. So, yeah, we learn about that. Xaden also, like, he kind of tries to hook up with Vi again, but I do like her here because she knows, like, Xaden told her the night before, like, don't fall for me. He's doing that whole thing, blah, blah. And she already knows. She's like, look, I know I like you, and I know if we keep doing this, I'm going to like you more, but also I know that you like me and you're trying to play this. And she's like, I'm only going to hook up with you again, like, on my terms. So she's like, no. Like, he tries, and they, like, try to, like, sweet talk each other, but she's like, nope, we're not doing that. Until you're going to admit it, we're not doing it. We also learned, like, graduation is in 10 days, and so Xaden is a third year. He's getting ready to leave, which we don't know what that looks like because, again, they can't be apart more than 3 days. We don't know where Xaden's going to go. We don't know. I mean, Vi has 2 more years of school, but he's, like, one of their most powerful, cadets or whatever. So we don't know what that looks like. We come to this celebration night, which essentially the celebration is a celebration of the murder of all of the terrorists, or not terrorists, all of the traitors. Mm-hmm. So none of the rebellion kids are there except for Liam, because he, like, Vi thinks that Xaden made him come, but he's like, no, I'm coming because I don't, like, trust your safety. So the king is there, and her mom, and all of these people are there. Vi ends up, like, leaving because she wants to find Xaden. Of course, Xaden is sitting, like, in the middle of the parapet. Why are you out there? So she is, like, wearing this, like, nice dress.
Dress to the tees.
Yeah, it's like a turtleneck kind of dress, but it's got, like, a split. And she's walking a parapet. And she gets out there. Of course, Xaden's like, oh, I'm bad for you. He's doing that whole thing. Blah, 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 blah. They end up back together again. And they end up in his room, and she, like, destroys the room again. And they're like, we have to figure this out, because, like, this can't happen every time. Like, can you imagine, like, everyone's gonna know every time?
Right.
Like, someone's gonna put this together. And so then they, like, get, like, this knock on the door. Like, they all have to, like, meet up. She ends up, like, going down, like, all the kids are together. She has on Xaden's jacket. Dane freaks out because, like, obviously, like, essentially he finally is realizing. He's like, oh, so it's Xaden. Yes, it was never you, Dane. Even if there was no Xaden, it was never you. It was never going to be you. They are supposed to go out and do, like, their final, whatever.
Final challenge. Game or whatever. And
Xaden wants Vi to go with him, and that's, again, why Dane is mad. So that's where he's going. And so she goes, their dragons go. Also, Liam goes with them with his dragon Day. Imogen goes.
Garrick. No. There is...
No, not Nick.
Bodhi.
Bodhi and... What's the one with the S? I don't really know her name.
Soleil?
Soleil, yes. I think that might be it.
Yeah, I think so.
So they get out there. They're out past the wards. And what we realize is that... So a Griffin rider comes. And Vi starts freaking out. But they're not there to attack. They've been working with Xaden. And all throughout the book, there's been instances where Vi has seen Xaden. Like, just like when he came and saved her when she got attacked, he was fully dressed. And she's like, where were you? And he always kind of played it off, because sometimes third years do go out to post and things like that. But we find out that Xaden and Garrick and Bodhi and a lot of that, they have been giving supplies to the Griffin Riders.
The enemy,
because they're battling venom and things like that. And so she's hurt and shocked and surprised. But what we also learn, I don't remember where this message came. How did they get the message? They end up getting a message, and essentially...
Oh, I think it was, like, left somewhere in the building.
Like the fort thing.
Yeah.
Well, they get a message from Dane. Is it from Dane's dad? Because she was like, it was from Dane's dad, because she's like, I recognize this writing. So, unfortunately, because Dane has been touching Violet all this time, Dane has been getting her memories. So, if you remember back, Dane told Violet that he had to touch your temples to get your memories, and that's not true.
He's a liar.
Dane only has to touch your face. And that's what Xaden tells her that, which Xaden already knew what his power, because Dane has told her, like, oh, it's confidential, you know, because, I mean, it would suck if everyone knew that, but he told her it was the temples, and so she's thinking, like, well, I mean, yeah, he cups my cheek, like, yeah, he's been getting your memories, and again, we don't know what that means, we don't know how far, like, we don't know what recent memories is, and he lied about that, who knows, I don't know, so... Not too long ago, Xaden did tell Violet a little bit of information about what he was doing. And so now we know Dane's a snitch. He went and told his dad. And so basically Xaden's been found out. And so they get this message that says, you can either go to your true post with, like, your squad and, like, do your actual, like, the end of the year thing. Or you can go help this village, which is getting ready to be attacked by venom. And so because they're all honorable, they all decide that they're going to stay and help this village. With the Griffin Rider is like, you guys need to leave. Like, the Griffin Rider knows that they're all gonna die, because they're like, they got attacked by 2 Wyvern and Venom like a week ago or something, and they're like, we all almost died. There's 4 of them this time. Like, we know we're gonna die, but we're still gonna fight. But they all decide to stay. And so Violet is like, she's pissed, but she's like, I'm gonna stay. And so they ensue in this battle, and Liam, I'm so hurt. So Day gets hurt, which is Liam's dragon, and Day dies.
And
a rider
the
without
same
his dragon.
befalls
Yeah.
Liam.
So a rider cannot live without his dragon. So unfortunately, when Day dies, we lose Liam, and I am very hurt by that.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
I really liked Liam.
I really liked Liam too. Liam, like, the whole throughout the book, he's like, I owe Zayden. They all really feel like they owe Zayden, like, their life because he, like, stepped up for them. He did all these things. And so, and they all, like, right before this, they're like, we would rather die as riders. We're riders, but I didn't want to lose Liam.
No. And Soleil dies too. I think she was the first one.
Yep.
So but that was, I think, the first time we really...
Yeah, we don't know too much about her.
So that one didn't really hurt that much.
But we do see, Zayden's using, like, a lot of his power, and Violet is trying to, like... We learned that if you take out a venom, it will kill the wyvern, because that's how they live. So she's, like, really trying to focus her...
So it's the opposite of
the dragon, yes. So she's trying that. She does end up getting, like, stabbed by one of the venom, and they have, like, this poison, but she does end up, like, being able to take it down. But she, like, passes out, and we kind of just leave it there. And so at the, like, very end of this book, Violet wakes up. She doesn't know where she is. Zayden comes in, and he tells us that we're in, how do we say it?
Erasia?
We're in Erasia, which Erasia is his old home, which was supposedly burnt to the ground after the traders and all that. It doesn't exist anymore, which obviously it does. It's very nicely built and put together. And then behind Zayden, Brennan comes in, which is Violet's brother that's supposed to be dead.
And he was like, welcome to the revolution. And I'm like, let me tell you, I was at the winery and I had like 5 pages left in the book. And I'm like, Mom, I need to finish this book. I'm so sorry, but I'm like itching to finish this. And so I was reading it and I got to that part and I gasped and like slammed my book closed. And I was like, and I opened it back up and I'm like, Mom, let me tell you about this book.
It's so good! I can't wait for Iron Flame!
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh! Okay. That was long. I'm sorry, guys. It's a long episode. Listen to us talk. So,
rating.
5 out of 5.
I give it a 5 out of 5 too, and I was completely speechless afterwards. It took me like it took me forever to finally like write a review on Goodreads about it, and then I ended up having to go back and add more because I was like, I pretty much just wrote, oh my god, I love this book, I'm speechless.
I can't say anything else.
Fourth Wing makes me want to read all the fantasy. Like,
it's so good.
So good.
It's so good.
So good. And great for, like, beginner fantasy readers. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, and I, like, doing a reread, like, I feel like I missed so much the first time, so I'm glad that I was doing this, but, oh, it is so good. It is long. I will say, like, there are some things that probably could have been cut out. It is lengthy, but, I mean, it's a 5 out of 5. I love it.
Let me tell you, the first day I read about 120 pages. I finished it the second day.
Oh my gosh!
I was reading it here in the bookstore, and then Megan from book club, she came in and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're reading it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And she's like, "How far are you?" And I told her, and end of the day, next day, I texted her and I said, "I'm done." And she said, "Oh my gosh, really?" I was like, "Yes,
it's so good.
I'm done."
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm glad that you liked it. I don't want to make a recommendation you don't like. I'm glad.
Okay, so going into more of the discussion stuff, I have read and, like, seen a lot of, like, theories about what's going on, and a lot of the questions that I have are, like, based off of the theories. So,
okay.
before we go into those, do you have any
Yes.
Okay, so personally, I don't.
That's
so,
Okay, so I only did a couple. So honestly, and this is like no shade to this actor because I think he's great, but I see Dane as like a PETA. Like a Josh Hutcherson. I don't know why. And then I only did him, and then Vi and Zayden. Honestly, first of all, they give me Divergent vibes. So if we just pull those two, why can I not think of anybody's name? I love him so much. Why can't I think of people's names? I'm gonna tell you because
Shailene Woodley is the female main character
and the love of my life. Theo.
Yes.
Theo James. Like, a younger Theo James. Like, absolutely. Or also, I think, for Vi, a Danielle Russell, if you ever watch Legacies, which is Vampire Diaries also, like, she would be really good, too. But that was it.
Okay, so you did mention Hunger Games when you were talking about Dane, and though I wouldn't necessarily go PETA, Dane did very much so have Gale energy.
He gives Gale energy, but I don't know why I would feel like he would look like a PETA. But I knew he gives Gale energy.
I was like,
I bombed your sister vibes.
I was like, when I was reading it, I was like, this sounds really familiar, like character wise.
Gale. He's a Gale.
And then now thinking back on it, I'm like, ooh, I really hate Gale.
Yes.
Like,
I love like the Gale hate on TikTok, the Gale Reaper. The Prim Reaper.
Okay. Now.
Okay.
So, first impressions we find aren't necessarily the true impressions when it comes to characters in the book. So, like, initially Violet was presented as, like, fragile and weak. Dane as the good guy. We know that's not true. Zayden as a ruthless enemy. Brennan is dead. Do you think that there may be any other surprises when it comes to the truth of the characters?
I mean, I'm sure like not all of them. Like I'm trying to figure out the mom. I feel like, okay, so we know like the mom has a dagger on her desk. Like she knows about the venom. There's been like so much speculation, which I don't know if you wrote this down or not. Like there's speculation that she was poisoned by venom and that's what's wrong with Violet.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so there's speculation that she was like stabbed or something by the venom, and that might have like sucked all the whatever out of Violet, and that's what's wrong with her because she has the dagger. Like she obviously knows about it, and it's like, so is she really evil? Like is she really this like military and like I love all this, or is she just trying? Like does she know Rand's alive? Like is there a reason she pushed her into the quadrant? I don't know. Are we not? And then that makes me think, like, am I not going to like Mira later? Like, we have two Sorengales that are now going to be in the rebellion. And so, like, is Mira not going to fold? Like, is she going to go the other way? So, those are those two. I don't know who else I would consider.
Yeah, I slightly question Lilith and if, you know, she's really a bad guy. Because, like you said, obviously she knows what's going on. Did she have any suspicions that, you know, Violet may be more, you know, powerful than what? I don't know.
Right.
Though I kind of drew me to it, but in the book, Lilith doesn't seem to be able to make eye contact with Violet well. Mm-hmm. I don't know if maybe she's feeling guilty, if she's, you know, trying to hide something.
Yeah.
But, so, let's see. So, do you think, and I'm iffy about this one, do you think that Zayden was justified in keeping the secret of what was really going on? And do you think that he was justified in asking Tarn to keep the secret too?
I would say yes, only because of Dane. Which I did, yeah, so I did miss that part. But, so, and I don't know if you've seen this theory about Imogen. So about her with the mind.
Yeah.
So, we don't, like, I don't know if we know how much that Violet really knows. Like, for example, when they go to the post and they see Mira, Violet mentions how Zayden's pack is a lot more empty than it was when he came. And we know that Imogen is always, like, around, but we never, like, there's not more to it. But I think that Dane, I don't think it's a lack of trust. I think he just, like, Violet was still had Dane.
Yeah.
And he doesn't trust Dane. And rightfully so.
I agree with that, too. Because we've found that when it comes to Xaden, I mean, to anybody, really, that Violet is very trustworthy.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a heavily a Dane thing.
Yeah.
But, so, a common idea or saying in the book is that dragons don't make mistakes. So, going off of that, do you think that General Melgren's dragon purposefully gave the Separatist children a relic that would block him from seeing
Oh, I didn't even say that. Yes. So, she just said a good point. So, if you didn't catch that, way back and like towards the beginning, it says that children with the rebellion, the rebellion children, they can't be in groups of 3. But they never know that for a couple of different reasons. Also, when they're at the end of the book, when they're out past the wars and they're at that outpost, and Violet's like, well, General Milgren's going to know, like, what happens here. And Xaden says, no, he's not. He's like, because of the relic. I think it was purposeful. Because the dragons know, that goes back with the whole, when Violet asked Dane, do you think Xaden's, before she was, like, closer with Xaden, do you think Xaden's doing something? And he was like, well, I mean, no, the dragons wouldn't do that. But the dragons aren't with the humans.
Right.
Yeah.
The humans have no power, no say when it comes to the dragons. Right. So I, too, believe that it is purposeful.
Yeah.
The dragons know what's going on, and they're trying to keep it hush-hush from the higher ups.
Yeah, I don't think they did that unknowingly.
Yeah. So, one thing, and I mentioned it to you earlier, is that in the battle, let me find the page, on page 463. So, we know that Liam's power is farsight, so he can see stuff, miles away or whatever. But, in here, it says that Liam flies for the griffins above us, wielding spears of ice into the injured wyvern's throat. So, that makes me wonder if they have potentially more than one signet. Because where did the ice come from?
Right.
As far as we know, Riddick?
Yeah.
Was it Riddick?
Somebody does ice. I think it is Riddick, because he's the one, like, he killed a couple of people. Because he, like, froze them out when he, like, first manifested.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riddick.
So, that makes me wonder.
It does. I mean, I hope it's not just, like, a oops, but, yeah. I don't know how else he would have done it. I mean, he's dead, as far as we know. Dead. I don't know if there's any way for him to come back from that. So, I mean, Violet's going to have 2 signets, we assume.
Yeah. And so I also, going off of that, saw something where Day, which is Liam's dragon, Day translates to ice.
Oh.
So,
was he making up the eye thing? Maybe Day was telling him that.
Maybe. I don't know.
That's weird. I need more answers. I'm going to have to go find that TikTok, and I'm going to look at the comments. I need more answers.
So, another theory, and also going off of Liam, is, so we talked we mentioned Liam has a sister that is a year behind him, Sloane, and he asked Violet to watch out for her.
Right.
We also, and this isn't something that we really touched on, but again, Liam was her bodyguard, following her everywhere. She had archive duty, and we was introduced to Jacinia.
Right.
And Jacinia is, I think we talked at the beginning. Yeah. Jacinia is deaf, and she signs, and Liam also signed very well. So the theory is that potentially his sister Sloane is deaf.
Oh, that could be possible. I can see that. I actually must have missed that both times because I missed that.
So let's see. Okay. I'm not entirely sure about this. I'm just throwing it out. Do you think that Mira is in on the revolution?
I don't think she knows anything currently.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. She worries me. To have all 3 of the kids go that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that would be too like happy ending.
Yeah, and she had mentioned that she thought she saw a group of dragons. But I feel like if she was currently in on the revolution, that it may not have been something that she would have said in front of everybody.
Yeah.
May have been, and there was a lot of hostility towards Xaden.
Yeah, she has a lot.
Even when they were kind of like taken to the back room. So I would like to see her in on the revolution.
I do too. I don't know. I mean, she's not a rule follower, but I just don't know. I think it might depend on her mom.
Yeah. Brennan. So, do you think he faked his death? Do you think, what was it, Nolan?
Yeah, Nolan.
Resurrected him?
I mean, he did die. We know that Terrence Ryder died. Mm-hmm. That is a fact. I don't know.
So.
It's hard. I don't know. Because it's like, okay, so if he didn't, then that means Xaden's dad didn't kill him. So there's that. But if he did, then that means they can be resurrected. And that's like a whole other, like,
yeah.
like list of possibilities. I don't, but so I've seen this theory that, Nolan, whatever his name is a Venom now. Because he tried to, like,
the power consumed him.
The power consumed him. Which I guess would be similar to death. I don't know.
So,
yeah.
My theory is that Brennan fakes his death. Because, so we're going to go all the way back to when Violet and Xaden were sparring, and he was like, I know you're poisoning people. Mm-hmm. And he said, I've known better poison masters.
Oh.
And then we get to where Brennan is introduced, and again, he says, I told you I've known better poison masters. Oh. But Brennan was a healer.
Maybe he took something to pretend that
he was a mender.
Mender, yeah.
So maybe he did, dabble in poisons. And we don't know
where his dragon is. Mm-hmm. We don't ever get any mention of his dragon.
So I was like, So, have you read the excerpt for Iron Flame yet?
No. I don't think I have.
Oh my gosh.
I need to. I don't know. It's on my list.
Oh. I think it's only like 3 or 4 paragraphs, if even that. It's a lot, yet like so little at the same time. Kind of has you questioning a lot of things.
Oh no.
A lot of things.
When does it come out again?
November 7th.
Oh my gosh. I have a month and a half. Okay.
But I loved this book.
Yes, I did too.
So much. Like, I am so ready to reread it. So ready.
You'll learn more.
And so, I don't know if you knew, but it's supposed to be a 5-book series.
Yes, that I do. Because people are like kind of concerned, but they're like, I'm excited, but they're like, that's a lot. So we're like, okay.
Yeah. I didn't realize that until today, actually.
Yeah, I do know that. I follow her on TikTok, so she's on there a lot. So yeah, I did. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm like, gosh. Because, her and Xaden fell in love so quickly. It seems like.
Oh yeah, I'm
So
excited
quickly,
to see
in the book series.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I hope it's not like a Hunger Games situation where something happens and like they turn up to be enemies again, or.
Well, and I'm really curious. Like, obviously, she's going back to Best Guys. Like, I know we're not done with that.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, how are they gonna like work that so that like she's like innocent? Also, this makes me curious about Imogen. When Imogen mind wipes, does that mean that Dane can't see the memories? I'm curious.
That's what I think they were hinting at.
Because I wonder if that's what they were doing, and that would prevent him from like that would make sense, but we don't know the details, so. I'm curious.
And given the excerpt, I'm wondering if maybe they wiped the memory, and if they did, if it was for the best or not.
Oh, for sending her back.
Because if she's like, I don't know, but
I'm stressed out.
Just so you know, like I said, it's a small excerpt. It's not very long at all, but. Xaden was not mentioned in it.
I'm hurt.
A new...
I don't want any new
head
boys.
honcho. No, a new head honcho was mentioned.
No.
And it seems very foreboding. So...
Oh, gosh.
And Dane was mentioned, and he's not...
We hate Dane. I'm a Dane hater. We hate Dane.
I wish Taryn would just...
burn him alive.
Yeah. Like he threatened to do.
Boom. Okay, this is a long episode. I'm excited. Listen to us. It'll be long. I'll edit it down some, but it's good. Okay, well, our next book, so the next one actually is The Butcher and the Wren by Elena Urquhart. So for the morbid girlies and guys and all in betweens. So that will be that. So make sure you're following us on Instagram at Booktrospective to follow along. And that is enough and all that I have for today.
The end.
Bye.
See ya.